believe us. The tales we could tell. Though, truth be told, it started very poorly.
The blood runs cold. We take our look but don't get old.
I was one. But now we are many. We all agree on one thing. To sail the coast. Hunt down those lizard trinkets. And we will find them. We will put ourselves back together. Fortune favors the infamous.
Forsaken, abandoned to the dark, what choice but to follow the flame? The fire to tear down the old ways, burning away all fear, doubt, and weakness. Nothing remains but power and ambition. This roaring fire will always demand more. More fuel. More sacrifice. The fiercest heat to forge the hardest steel. Destiny, rising from within the crucible. To seize the world with this fire is to see it burn first.
All right. Hey, what's up, Loopy? What is up, Loopy? All right, first we'll start off with Curio's games. Game 1. We have Curio here against Butcher Bird. Still repping that SOK tag. Got the Empire from Butcher Bird up against the Greenskins from Curio. Bit worried about Curio's build here, but we'll see how it goes. So we have Boris Todbringer for Curio on the Griffin, plus the Middleland Rinfang and the White Cloak of Ulrich, obviously slowing things down, and just obviously a very great lord to bring against the Greenskins. Very easy to tear out the Greenskins and pick off these low leadership units, especially the skirmishing ones, and even if like a nice rear charge against Savage Orc Boar Boys can be pretty detrimental to them. Outriders for the skirmishing of the Empire. We also have a whole bunch of a staunch line of spearmen up front, can be holding back any really of the Greenskins infantry that they bring. Empire Knights, pretty generally fantastic, everybody knows that. And Royal Outdoor Griffites, going to be pretty decent here too, as long as the proper engagements are chosen. As for Spellcaster, we have a Bright Wizard with Burning Head and Cascading Fire Cloak. Burning Head obviously very great against any of the Greenskin mobs, especially whenever they're most likely going to bring the Rugged Armored Orcs. They have 70 armor, it's still pretty decent, especially with that leadership penalty. But everything else, I mean, 30 armor from Orc Boys, 25 from Goblins, etc. Like, Burning Head is just fantastic, as always. For the Goblin Great Shaman, we do have Vindictive Glare. He is going to be on that Spider mount. Pretty decent anti-large fighter on top of that. And makes him pretty durable at 120 armor. Pretty decent melee stats at 5830. So he's pretty competent, and he won't tear out easily like most Greenskin Lords. For the rest of the army, we do have Skirmishing, which will be the Morgrub's Meiji Marauders. For that AP, it's going to be pretty good if they shoot at like a Boris Todbringer or any Empire Knights, if they get side shots rather because of the Silver Shields. But generally, other range will be Orc Error Boys, including the Rugged Armored Orcs. But that is it for Skirmishing and some another Orc Error Boys. Otherwise, it's going to be some Orc Boys for the Cav, including some Savage Orc Boar Boys, going to try pretty well into any of the Empire Knights, though they have relatively low melee defense at 20. So if they take a charge, it can be pretty brutal for them, especially with that 35 armor, but they do have physical resistance 25%, so pretty nice. But generally, we do have the Orc Boar Biggins, the 85 armor, more durable Cav. We also have some Goblin Bolt Throwers, and we will shoot into Outriders, which will be pretty decent value-wise, and then Bolt Throwers as well, which is awesome. We're picking some off, but the accuracy in those boys are so, on those catapults are just so low, it's actually pretty heinous how majority of the time they just miss a general majority of their shots. But yeah, that's pretty it for the Greenskin side. I think, based off of the Empire's build here, I put them in a little bit of more favor simply because I think that the Greenskin are going to be a bit overwhelmed by the Empire surround. But I mean, the Greenskins do have numbers as per usual. Nice Burning Head. It tags a little bit of Goblins. It doesn't really do actually too much. But definitely the Greenskin player is trying to go for a little bit of anti-skirmish a bit, trying to keep those Outriders away from any of the more important units. If you want to keep that Goblin Grey Shaman away from those massive volleys, because those can do some pretty detrimental damage, as you can already see. Already like close to a quarter off their health. I say close, but you know, like we're like 1/6. But Boris Todbringer taking a few shots here and there, but it's pretty manageable because of the Middleland Runefang, so it's not gonna be too much trouble. And this is a capture point, obviously, so I mean, if the Greenskins player just wants to throw a Goblin body on there and just capture it, that could be pretty decent, you know, while the Empire player tries to skirmish. Bright Wizard takes a detrimental Vindictive Glare. My god, look at the damage on that. Jesus. That is insane. What is the value like so far on the Goblin Great Shaman with those Vindictive Glares? 3,100 damage, and that's purely, I believe, on the Bright Wizard. That's pretty good. My god, almost already taking that wizard off the field. Orc Boar Boys, Empire Cav take an engagement there with the Savage Orc Board Boys, but with the Spearmen trying to screen them out, the Orc Board Boys are going to try to get out of there. They don't want to be taking free damage from spears, but we do have one stuck, unfortunately, with the Royal Altar Quickrights, Empire Knights, and some Spearmen, so it's very, very bad fight for them. Some Orc Board Boys are going to try to support the Empire Knights, the other Savage Orc Board Boys, maybe get a sandwich on both those units, could be pretty nice, but the Royal Altar Quickrights are on their tail, and that could be very, very bad for those Orc Boys. The Bright Wizard takes another Vindictive Glare, does some pretty decent damage. Boris Toddbringer is jumping in the back line, getting on top of those Savage Orc Boys, and as you can see, that Terror Route is going to be coming in here soon, potentially. As you can see, already Wavering and Terrified. There we go. Some pretty decent shots there for Major Marauders, but again, the regeneration is not gonna counteract that a lot. How'd that Cav fight go over here? So that sandwich was attempted, but unfortunately, as I said, the Royal Altar of Quickrights was able to turn that fight around into the Empire's favor. But here come the Broken Tusk Mob. Got a pretty decent engagement with them. Even got the Wah. So it's going to be the 51 attack and 40 weapon strength. But a Burning Head goes down. Even though it doesn't do a lot of damage because of their armor, that leadership penalty is pretty huge. Bringing it down to 11 leadership with that burning. But Savage Orc Boys are going to lose that fight there with the Empire Knights and the Spearman support. We do have some Orc Boys coming back, which can potentially either chase off the Bright Wizard, but I don't think it's worth it. Maybe just continue coming back to support, deal with the rest of the Empire Knights. Over here in the back, we do lose that Savage Orc Boys, which is pretty big loss for the Greenskins. But we do have another one coming back, which is pretty nice. We're able to countercharge those Empire Knights. So theoretically, the countercharge is not going to be great for them health-wise. Again, because of that low armor and low melee defense. Empire do take that capture point. Balance of power is not looking... It's looking in favor of the Greenskins, but I don't really trust it. I think the Empire is doing exceptionally well here, but they do layer wizards and no more burning heads. But regarding the Cav, the Greenskins, they've lost a majority of them. Pretty much all starting to rout out the field. We only have one here. Broken Tusk Mob is gone. Oh no, they're here. But then we have 21 models here. We have a single Cav unit here and one here, so 3 in total left. Really, the other ones are pretty much off the map for now. We do have a lot of infantry still left. The Morgans and Router still have plenty of ammunition to keep shooting at Boris, but Boris is pretty tied up here. If the Greenskin player is able to get us around on him, but look at Boris' freaking mass here. He's just going to break through all those Board Boys with the help of those Empire Knights and just get back up in the air. So not catching him. Though the AP missiles are helping a little bit, but it's again, that regeneration is not doing it's just helping much more. The general missile damage is way too low on the AP missiles to really make up for the regeneration. Morgan's Reggie Marauders, or rather the Ruggles Armored Orcs, can get some nice side shots into those Empire Spears, but probably a bit of better targets. Maybe want to come back around and start shooting at some Empire Knights, get behind some Orc Boys because they're about to get run down and destroyed. The Outriders have plenty of ammunition to continue on shooting and really nothing to do anything about that. The Greenskin side, the Goblin Bolt Thrower has 169 value, presumably shooting all game. I say that, but they continue to try to struggle to turn around and shoot. Vindictive Glare goes down, hits those regular armor those Royal Altar Quickrights, Doesn't really do too much, but neither do the Bolt Throwers as well. They keep missing, as you can see. Who knew Goblins had terrible eyesight, I guess. They continue, some Outriders coming back around, and probably gonna get some decent shots into the Savage Orc Boys, and pretty much send them running after just a single volley, I'm imagining. As you can see, losing quite a few models there. Really nice. Really nicely played by Butcher Bird with those Outriders. Vindictive Glare going down, however, going to do some pretty decent damage to those guys. Get a little rear shot into them, which is pretty nice. But hey, look at that. The Rugged Armored Boys are still up and shooting. I imagine getting some pretty decent value at 810. Not too bad. Generally want to keep these up, hopefully, to counter skirmish the Outriders, but they could be in trouble here soon with Boris Toddbringer nearby and the rest of the Greenskin Cav being destroyed. With those Greenskin Cav routing once again, I fear for what remains of the Greenskins. They only have the Broken Tusk Mob left, the Anti-Large Lord on their Spider, on the Ragnarok Spider. So not looking too great. Royal Altar Quickrights looking okay with 17 models and less than a quarter of their HP. Capture point is up to 200 points. I don't think it's going to matter at the very end, but it is a very skirmishy back and forth game. But yeah, as you can see, the Goblin Great Shaman is just taking detrimental damage from those Outriders. Those regular armor boys need to turn around, and they are turning around to finally shoot the Outriders, but that Great Shaman needs to stay out of, like, stay in the max range of the Outriders at the very least, so they do minimal damage. But here we go. A Boar Boy begin getting a charge in the Empire Knights and potentially Boris Todbringer. But again, these Outriders are just getting nice crossfires into the Great Shaman and the Boar Boys, and they're going to be routing right quick. The Broken Death Mob get a charge into the Empire Knights, but the World Art of Griffiths are their support, and as you can imagine, that's going to be a very bad battle for them. Goblin Thrower up to 65 kills now, up to 744 value, when they just had 100 and something value when I saw them earlier, so that's insane. That's an insanely big difference. Goblin Great Shaman needs to probably potentially finish off these Royal Altar Griffites, but I think Boris Todbringer is going to be a real issue here. I mean, there's just too much. Let's see here. Let's see. So it's looking a little bit better in my opinion, but the Royal Altar Griffites are, again, a pretty big problem, and so is Boris. But I don't think Butcherbird is going to let the Royal Altar Griffites fall to the Great Shaman so easily. I mean, the Great Shaman is a decent fighter, but not enough to wipe out those Altar Griffites by themselves. Though they do have plenty of fodder with Orc Boys and Goblins nearby. Rugged Armor Orcs do have some pretty decent ammunition left at 12 volleys. One Outrider has run away. And we do have some Empire Knights in the back. Some Outriders over here still have some pretty decent ammunition at 14 volleys each. Butcherbird being pretty conservative with their shots, which is exactly what they want to be doing. Boris Todbringer and the Royal Altar Griffites have gotten a complete surround of the Great Shaman, and I think this might be the game ender here for the Greenskins if Curio lets the Great Shaman fall here, and I think he is. I think the Great Shaman here is in some pretty bad trouble, starting to waver, and with that wavering potential rout, that'll be the end for the Greenskins, I believe. Let's see here. Fight not looking too great. And yep, there he goes with the rout. Royal Art of Griffites just doing such insane value here. 133 kills, 2157 value. Absolutely insane. They might just finish off the Great Shaman there. And that'll probably be the end for the Greenskins. As they get the full surround once again. Down to 760 HP. Could get another recharge here from the Boris Todbringer. And that'll be it. Yep, there goes that death. And it's going to be a pretty big leadership penalty for the Greenskins. And I think Boris is probably going to be able to finish off the rest of this with just the massive terror routes all on their own. And then the Outriders continuously just firing away with that, giving them that missile fire penalty. There's a leadership from under missile fire 5. And then again, coupled with the Boris, Todbringer, Blood Roar, and White Cloak of Ulrich. Not White Cloak of Ulrich, but, you know, Blood Roar, and then the terror from the actual beast itself. Yeah, we get that charge in there. Rugged Armored Orcs are pretty much donezo. Boris Todbringer is going to pretty much solo the rest of this because, you know, SE game. Definitely not an SE meta at all. Nope. But anyways, pretty good game. Boris pretty much clutched it out there. That was a very nice catch there on the Spider Lord. Pretty much sealed in the deal. I think Greenskins had a good chance to come back there, but the issue is, again, these terror routes are just so detrimental to the Greenskin side, and Boris is just insane at that. He's just very, very good at that. And then the Royal Altar Griffites were able to stay up that entire game, despite the fights that they found themselves in. That was pretty much a game ender. They're being able to not snipe those guys out anytime early on. So what's up, sexy boy? Loopy, Caradoc. Always take Crown of Command on Greenskins. You think so? I think that could be pretty good. Yeah, you could throw them on you throw that on like one of your Broken Tusk mobs or your Greenskin Cav. That could be pretty good at holding back some units, in my opinion. Let me load the next one. So that is game 1 for the ODM against Curio. Let's see here. Let's get this overlay up. So, no longer Butcherbird will be at trial. It'll be Curio. Curio 0 to 1 from ODM. All right. So down one game from Curio. We're going to move on to the second game to here. All right. So we have Curio against Seagulls, Tomb Kings against Nurgle. How this matchup typically goes, I imagine, is a very slow grind, but I think, as you can imagine, the Forsaken will do tremendous work at just absolutely obliterating any of the Tomb King's infantry, helping with that grind immensely. And if the Tomb Kings brings enough decent AP options, I think they might be able to survive here. But we do have Arkin the Black for the Lord here with Spirit Leech and Fate of Buna. Pretty good pick here with the Tomb Blade and Staff of Nagash. He's going to be on horse. We have a whole bunch of Skeleton Spearmen for the front line, staunch line of Spearmen, plus 2 Skeleton Horsemen on the left flank, 2 Skeleton Horsemen on the right flank, plus a Nakahara Horseman in the center. We have Chosen the Gods. Shopti going to be pretty good here at shooting against any of the infantry that the Nurgle brings, but obviously they're going to be pretty quick with the Forsaken here, so not going to have too much chances to get a lot of shots off before they collapse your infantry. Sphinx of Fuskek going to be pretty good at dueling any of the single entity lords that Nurgle seems to bring. You see a lot of the same Nurgle Rot Rider blobs a lot of the time, and that Sphinx is going to do pretty good at dealing with those hero blobs. But it is a single Sphinx. I don't know how that'll do against all 3 if they get us around on him. But for ranged, we do have some Blessed Legion of Faka. Does have that armor sundering, I believe. Yes, from their missile strength, which is pretty nice. And then we have another Shopti Great Bow and another on the right side. That is it for the Tomb King side. For the Nurgle side, we do have a Chaos Lord of Nurgle. He's going to be on that Raw Beast, as I said, with the Father of Blades, bringing that, providing a minus 24 melee attack debuff on enemies nearby, which is pretty decent for 33 seconds, and then some AP values for them. Just be buffing them up. They're already an extremely solid fighter, like literally one of the best lords on the Nurgle roster, in my opinion. That's that insane stat-wise, and they are so incredibly durable. It's hard to get rid of them. So giving even more buffs to them is pretty nice. We have a Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle as well with Fleshy Abundance. As you can imagine, no surprise there. Kazakh the Befouled, just going to be a base form on their Rot Rider. We have some Chaos Warhounds on both flanks, including some Nurglings, and then we have a massive front line of Forsaken, being able to tear through that Tomb King's front line, and then we have some Marauder Horsemen to skirmish down any constructs, which are pretty good here. Yeah, if those are Shopti kind of focus down those Marauder Horsemen, that could be pretty solid. I think that's exactly what you want to be going for, really, because if you can pick off those Marauder Horsemen, they're gonna have very little answers to your Sphinx aside from their lords. But yeah, just generally want to keep Arkin safe, of course, away from the hero blob, because he will die very quickly. He is a squishy little bastard, as he deserves to be. But already Curio's going to send out the first summon to try to block them out. Some Spirit Leeches going down on the caster. It's a pretty good choice there. Want to slowly whittle down the uses of the healing from the Nurgle side. Yeah, Forsaken get into the fight, already melting away those Skeleton Spearmen as no surprise, which is going to be pretty tough there for the Tomb King side, because that means they'll have less time to be able to shoot at the skirmishing and the more important units. But luckily, thanks to the undead traits, it'll help a little bit. But as you can see, even the Skeleton Horsemen are getting absolutely torn apart. They need that front line is not going to last. Shopti Great Bows are potentially looking somewhere. I think they need to be more focused on chasing down those, not chasing down, but moving away from the front line a bit, because smartly the Nurgle player is going to keep a lot of the skirmishing out of range. So you want to keep, so they pretty much have no use being here in this general vicinity next to the lords and heroes, which can get on top of them. What are they choosing the Gachi there? And they're mostly blocked, but they can get some pretty decent side shots in the Forsaken. The Ushapti is shooting in at Marauders. Not a very good choice, in my opinion, unfortunately. But the Sphinx of Ustek is here. Probably needs to get on top of the Nurgle Lord to get those Ushapti back up in the fight, because right now they're extremely important. And that's exactly what Curio is going to do. Some Nekhai Horsemen can come back and start shutting down those Chaos Warhounds, because they have gotten to the back line. But as you can see, the front line has collapsed completely. So the Forsaken are going to be able to get into the back line as well, really pressuring those Ushapti, and things are going to start falling apart really quickly for the Tomb Kings, because the Ushapti are not getting any good value really at all, as the Nurgle player has played incredibly smartly, keeping these horsemen back so they can be kept late for the late game to throw their throwing axes into the Sphinx, doing insane work. But even without them, like the as I said, the hero blob is doing some pretty decent damage into that Sphinx. But the Sphinx is trading well as well. Maybe the horsemen are able to help out here in this situation, but even they only have 50 armor, so the Forsaken will do pretty good damage into them. Unfortunately, the Chosen of the Gods are shut down. Forsaken and dogs are on top of them and not going to be allowing to shoot very much. Another Spirit Leech going down on the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, but again with a quick healing response from the Nurgle side, it's not looking too great there. The Spirit Leech isn't going to do enough work. Did Arkin bring Fate of Buna? I think he did, right? I think maybe a Fate of Buna on keeping the Fate of Bunas for Forsaken would have been the better choice, because the healing would have is just not really. I mean, the Spirit Leeches aren't really doing too much. The Chaos Sorcerer Lord, I already imagine, probably got 2 Fleshy Abundances out maybe by now. So, but there we go. Sorcerer Lord is jumping in on top of the Ushapti, and once again shutting them down from continuing to shoot. They do have decent melee stats, so they can keep back the Forsaken, but them being able to keep the infantry back isn't really mainly the problem. It's just they need to be shooting. But yeah, as you can see, Sphinx of Ustek is taking an absolute beating from these heroes and is going to be falling, unfortunately. But yeah, pretty bad situation there for the Tomb King side, and that is going to go to Nurgle, to Segos. So a 2-for-1 for ODM. Should probably change this font. It's pretty white. Let's see here. Make it like a bright red, maybe. There we go. That's nice. A little bit more readable. Who's this noob 2K player? I don't know. They may be pretty new to Total War. I don't know where they found this guy at. Maybe in public matches. If your score will go up faster. Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. All right, let's swap over to the next game. We got game 3 from Curio. This Curio guy, I'm not sure how well he's doing here. Might have to. I think he's probably gonna get kicked out of ODM at this point. This is looking pretty bad. I mean, you can't even beat Segos. That guy's kind of a noob. That guy's kind of bad at this game. Curio will be going up against Kukiniko this time. See how well that goes. Another Forsaken rush from another Chaos aligned faction. Already pretty scared for the first time. Already scarred from the first time. Poor Curio. But they're going to be facing another one. This time, though, on a much stronger faction in this matchup. On the Ogre Kingdoms, an extremely busted faction, as we all know. Slaughtermaster with that extra ingredients and Troll Guts, plus the Blood Cleaver, going to be regenerating the wins in melee. I've always forgotten about that and always regretted attacking the Slaughtermaster. No surprise, because it just is never worth it. We do have a Thunder Tusk. Why the hell do we have a Thunder Tusk here? This is some BS. This thing is disgusting. But, you know, Curio maybe a little salty after that Forsaken rush from last time. Going to be bringing out all the breaks here, all the stops. We have a whole bunch of Noblars up front. No surprise, a staunch line of spears of Noblars with some Noblar trappers as well. We got some Golgfag man-eaters, some ridiculously good anti-infantry, super heavily armored, not super heavily armored, but 80, decently armored at 80 with really solid leadership and fantastic stats, honestly. Just so hard to deal with, especially with that abductive tactics. We have 2 of them in total, so going to be pretty much destroying any of the Khorne infantry as long as they didn't bring, I can't think of their name right now, but you know, the ones, the really good ones. Valkyria the Bloody will be leading Khorne side with the Spear of Slapnir, with Forsaken leading that infantry line, the staunch line of Forsaken. We got some Marauder Horsemen on both flanks, and be pretty good at, if they can get in range, to shoot at that Thunder Tusk. Any other monstrous infantry from the Ogre Kingdom side, that'll be fantastic. We also have some Minotaurs. Obviously, a pretty good pick here against any big monstrous infantry from the Ogre Kingdoms, which you'll generally see, and can take the battle to the Golgfag's Man-Eaters. We also have some Furies in the sky, 2 of them in the back flanking. We'll see how this goes. I think it's a pretty decent matchup here for Curio. Let's see how he does. Already got a nice little launcher coming out there from on the Forsaken, doing some pretty decent damage and slowing them down. Very nice. Will the Thunder Tusk be enough? Of course it will. Of course. How could it not be? Another shot there coming in. Big snowball crushing into those Forsaken. Very nice. But a quick surround will try to collapse there on Curio's side. But we do have a burning, Spear Slapnir absolutely tearing apart those Noblars. Oh my god, that was the best Spear Slapnir I've ever seen. It just like eviscerated that unit completely. Oh my god. That was overkill. The Forsaken going to be ripping apart those Noblars. No surprise there. We probably wouldn't send that Thunder Tusk in to fight, and no surprise, just absolutely tears apart those Forsaken with that brutal charge. Furies jump in there on the Noblars, but the Golgfag's Man-Eaters jump in right quickly and deal with them so fast, like just in a blink of an eye. Forsaken battling now with the Golgfag's Man-Eaters, but I can guess that those Golgfag Man-Eaters will take both of those Forsaken by themselves. They would not have any issues, in my opinion. Thunder Tusk doing pretty decent, but already down to close to half HP. But we do have a Troll's Guts overcasted. Want to keep them away from those Minotaurs, but yeah, generally just gonna try to keep it healed and out of the way of those Marauder throwing axes, because it is looking oh my god, look at the leadership on the Thunder Tusk. If that Thunder Tusk gets routed so this quickly into the game, it's gonna be horrible for the Ogre Kingdoms. But I mean, as you can imagine, I mean, with all these, okay, it's fine. Thunder Tusk is getting away. Somehow the Thunder Tusk has gotten away from the Marauder Horsemen and the Minotaurs. Golgfag Man-Eaters are here to aid, but they are large targets. The Minotaurs will surround them and chop them to pieces. Got to be careful there. Slaughtermaster being charged, being surrounded by the Minotaurs, or chased down by them. The Valkyria is going to take the fight to the Thunder Tusk as well. Got to be careful. I mean, gotta watch out. But the Forsaken are doing pretty decent here against the Pigback Riders. Though at the end of the day, they are Pigback Riders, so holding their own at the moment. Those Golgfag Man-Eaters are going to go over to support that Thunder Tusk, potentially help out with those Minotaurs and the Forsaken. Despite them being pretty much a prime target for the Minotaurs are a bit busy with the Thunder Tusk. But I mean, as you can see, look what happened earlier. Okay, so the Thunder Tusk was in a pretty bad leadership position and was losing a lot of HP very quickly. Yet look at how much it's come back, and look how much value it is just picking up. I imagine 1,073. Fantastic. A Spear Slapnir going down doing some pretty decent damage to those piggyback riders, and probably going to send them packing. Forsaken I finished off those Pigback Riders as well, though these Marauder Horsemen have been shut down completely by the Boglars and the other Noblar Trappers, so less ranged support from the Khorne side, which is obviously very good. Some Trappers have continued shooting at them, but they are out of ammunition. Might want to just send them to chase them down, because those certain axes are going to get a lot of good value on those Golgfag Man-Eaters. As you can already see, some of their models dying from those throwing axes. But Thunder Tusk looking nice and healthy, especially if we get another overcasted Troll Guts on them. But it's doing pretty good so far at 5,800 HP. And if those Marauder Horsemen can get screened out, then that'll help out tremendously. Forsaken routed off. We have another one here nearby. What are the Minotaurs doing? We have one Minotaur here with only 7 models left. And another one has routed off. So there goes pretty much all of the answers that Khorne had for the Thunder Tusk, and I think the Thunder Tusk is just going to clutch the rest of this game out. It is pretty much over. Valkia would lose in a 1v1 against the Thunder Tusk, I believe. And those Marauder Horsemen do have some ammunition left. If they can get some pretty close charges or throwing axes into that Thunder Tusk, but nope. And there he goes. They charge into some Noblide Trappers, and that was the wrong choice for them. Or they got screened out by them, and unfortunately for them, take a cannonball or a snowball to the heads of their horses, and they were gone. But yeah, some minor mistakes from the Khorne side, letting their not keeping up the chase against the Thunder Tusk, because if they could have completely broken that Thunder Tusk, if they could have routed it, that could have pretty much spelled the end there pretty early on for the Ogre Kingdoms, as I've seen before against Slaanesh. That Thunder Tusk is a heavy investment, and those Book-Fact managers will not clutch it out against the Minotaurs. So pretty solid game there. I just realized I've not been looking at values, but yeah, let me go to the values here. My bad about that. 139 here on the Slaughtermaster, nothing too important. 399 here. It has been a while since I've been actually really casting replays, so it makes sense. But yeah, 1452 on the man eaters, 2132 on the other one. That is pretty insane value. Those guys are very, very good. Even with the Minotaurs nearby in those fights, they still managed to pick up that much of insane value. 279. Surprisingly, the Piggyback Knights did not get like 2000 value like they have before. Well, luckily with some of the nerfs, they have helped quite a bit. But 1544 here on the Thunder Tusk. See, even the man eaters outranked the Thunder Tusk in value, but that's not really where the value, like that value doesn't truly reflect how good the Thunder Tusk was there. Being able to come back and just like bring out insane terror routes and just be an overall like menace with the slowing aura, and then the cannon fires as well with the slowing aura too. Slowing debuff. Losing to Seagoss is pretty embarrassing, true, but I think he was cheating as usual. Doing everything in my power to prevent having Seagoss pick my avatar, even if it's as sweaty as OK Thunder Tusk. Yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. If you've seen some of Seagoss's profile picture choices in the past, it's been pretty bad. I have seen them, and let's just say I would get Nitro just to avoid letting anybody else in any other group see the choice that Seagoss makes. Yeah. I don't remember who it was for. It wasn't for man, I can't remember who. But he picked one that was like pretty edgy. Like I don't want to think about it, but definitely I would do everything it takes to keep away from a Seagoss profile picture. Pretty good though. You played that pretty well. Kukino made unfortunately some mistakes there. Maybe doesn't play Khorne too much. He is a Nurgle player. No surprise there. He's going against his chosen god to play Khorne. But he did pretty decent there. Forsaken did alright. I think, in my opinion, I think the Forsaken for Khorne are kind of the worst variant. Like, I think they're just so insanely bad. I'm pretty sure this is just a popular opinion in general, but like that terrible melee defense, and just like compared to all the debuffs you get from other Forsaken, from Nurgle, from Slaanesh, the Slaanesh Forsaken, in my opinion, are the best. Second, Nurgle. Third, maybe Tzeentch, and then Khorne being last, pretty much. But yeah, they did okay against the regular Noblars. Once they got the Pigback Riders, they just took forever to chop through them. It was pretty bad for them. You think Nurgle ones are the best? Yeah, I think I could see like Slaanesh and Nurgle ones being pretty much like the same rank for me, even if maybe the Nurgle ones top it a little bit, because heavy armor, Poison, very very durable, and just such a good front line. They're just so insane. Let's see here, 316. The throwing axe is doing pretty decent there, 386 and 820. But unfortunately, they kept getting screened out by the Noblar trappers. And yeah, you just have to really, really be careful. So as you saw in the last game with Segos, he kept a lot of the throwing axes back against Tomb Kings. And you just have to find those gaps with those throwing axes to be able to get nearby to throw them. Even if it's not at the Thunder Tusk, if you're throwing them at the Man-Eaters, that's exactly your type of target. You need those throwing axes into those Man-Eaters. You want to keep them from staying healthy in those relatively healthy games, because the Ogre Kingdoms have to choose between the Troll Guts on who to throw it on, and those Man-Eaters can be very, very, very important. But also, I think the biggest mistake early on was just letting that Thunder Tusk get away, because you had a proper surround on them with the Minotaurs. The throwing axes were getting insane value on the Thunder Tusk. It was so close to breaking, and it just was able to slip away. And once that happened, it was pretty much over, because the Troll Guts were continuously keeping it back up, and then the Man-Eaters and then the Pigback Riders were able to pretty much support it. And after that point, it was just free reign for the Thunder Tusk to just pick up all its value back up. So, yeah, the Minotaurs had a bit of a struggle there. One of them in particular, 551, but the other ones did pretty decent, 1714 and 1180. But yeah, the Furies, I don't really believe in the Furies too much here. I think they're pretty bad. You're not going to really see lead belchers, in my opinion, here. I think, honestly, I want to say dogs, but I just really don't think the Furies are very good here, in my opinion. I don't know, what do you think, Loopy? What do you think for this matchup? I just don't feel like the Furies do much, in my opinion. Let me switch to the next game. Pretty solid game. Well played there, Curio. Let me give you that score. And look at that. Red did make the score grow up faster. All right. Oops. Change the game here. Oh, right. Curio only did 3 matches, right? Because Loopy here was busy being not the boss of ODM and playing a freaking campaign and didn't play against Curio. Yeah, but would you really expect lead belchers here against Corrin? Honestly? Like, it feels like they'd get shut down relatively easily. I mean, not relatively easily in the sense that, like obviously it'd take a big mistake from the Ogre player to let their lead belchers get shut down, but like, it just doesn't feel like lead belchers have that great of choices here to shoot at. Okay, so Loopy, when are you getting your game against Curio? This is not fair. You can't just do 3 matches. Someone needs to wake up Alfred to slap Curio around a little bit. You know, his ego has gotten a bit too high recently. This is unacceptable. Only 3 matches out of a best of 5. Come on. Where the hell is Sexy Boy? Somebody wake him up too. You know, I came here for a trial, not a couple of mock matches. I don't think Curio's up to snuff yet. I mean, come on. But unfortunately, that's all we have. So we're gonna go to Kukino's trials. I'm sure I'm butchering his name. Kukino Kiko. Cuck. I'm calling you Cuck. Yeah, but Curio, that you know, that wasn't a trial game. So you need to put your all in the trial game against Alfred, so Alfred can slap you around just as equally hard, but at least you can maybe like hold your arms up as shields better, because I mean, you have to face the big boss, the troll, the ogre hiding in the caves. before you can say you can be part of the clan. I mean, maybe do part 2 on the weekend. Yeah, I mean, this is not right. I mean, Loopy, for Bird's trial, you faced Bird like 2 or 3 times because nobody else is around. This is not right. I mean, come on, ring the dinner bell, wake those piggies up. But all right, let's go to, dude. How do you spell this? How do you say this guy's name? Kukiniko. Whatever. We're going to Kukiniko's trial. Curio passes. Sort of passes. He doesn't get a Segos picture. Lucky for him. Kukiniko. This guy doesn't have a name. I'm just not going to refer to him as anybody. He's Nurgle. Kukinko. Shut up, Curio. Kukink. Oh. Who named him when he was born? Who decided to name him Kukinko? What is this European name that I don't understand? If you guys use real names, we are here with Kukinko's version, part of the trial, with Sexy Boy leading the first match against the Nurgle player, who is bringing out Nurgle. I don't know what was going on here in Sexy Boy's mind, but VC against Nurgle. First of all, not only is this not an entertaining matchup at all, it is actually gag worthy, but VC have no, this is, what was Sexy Boy thinking? I don't know where his mind was at. Did he just wake up? Was he like a little high on some drugs? I don't know. What milk was he sipping in the morning? Some goat's milk, and it just like was fermented. Got it straight out of the fridge and didn't read the fact that it was 6 months out of expiration. I don't know. But Handler Kemmler here will be leading VC into their doom. We have Invocation, Raise Dead, Keys of Nagash, and Lord of Undeath, with, of course, his staff, whatever it's called, the Chaos Doom Blade, excuse me. We have some Skeleton Spearmen. We do have Mortis Engine, Crypt Horrors, and the Stearnsman, Graveguard RR. We also have 2 Vargulfs here. Going to be trying to beat down any of the Nurgle characters and whatnot. Not really going to do too much, I believe, in my opinion. Crypt Horrors. As I said, Vargeist in the air, about 3 of them in total. And that is it for the VC side. For the Nurgle side, we do have the... I'm surprised that I never see this guy, Demon Prince of Nurgle. I don't know what the hell... I'm not saying this. Kukinko. I don't know what kind of stuff he's brewing, but he's got a Demon Prince with just Fleshy Abundance. Pretty decent fighter. He does have magical attacks. Mostly just going for an Air Force, I guess. Got 50, 60, and 510. I just wish these Demon Princes weren't so expensive for what they are. They're just... I don't know, they're just so mediocre. I can't believe CA has left them like this for so long. But anyways, you have the Angels of Decay. I do take him on occasion, like Dom. But that Dom you can get away with like less valuable units, in my opinion. But I think he's generally the best out of the Demon Princes, in my opinion. But the other ones are just so rubbish, generally. Aside from Slanesh's like Heralds, or whatever they're called. Yeah, I can't think of their names, but Plague Drones as well in the air. Just a massive heavy air force. The Angels of Decay are fantastic. Are going to absolutely obliterate any of the Vargeist, destroy the Mortis Engine, and pretty much the Vampire Ghosts are not going to have anything they do about it. And then, yeah, some more Plague Drones as well. Those magical attacks will be fantastic, and then a solid AP, and then a whole bunch of Plague Bearers will do pretty good at against any of the infantry from the VC side, aside from the Stearnsman. But they don't have magical attacks or anything, so. A nice Keys of Nagash, taking out some pretty good models there from the Plague Drones. So, already off to a good start there from the VC side. Very nice shot. But how many of those gazes will continue to do good work? We'll see. Already they're shooting away at the Mortis Engine, however, doing some pretty decent damage. Can probably knock that up right quickly. The Vargeist got to be very, very careful with taking any of these engagements with Plague Drones, because it won't be a very good fight for them. Got to be very picky and choosy. As you can see, that Mortis Engine is getting absolutely obliterated. Maybe they're trying to just hold on to the main conquest point and hope that that's enough to outgrind Nurgle, which doesn't really make much sense. But we'll see here. Our guys do take a fight here with the plague drones, and yeah, as you can see, as you can imagine, Vargeist are more of a hit and run glass cannon type unit. So not going too well for them, in my opinion, especially with those demon prints in the air helping. Angels of Decay absolutely obliterating that Mortis engine is pretty much done for. The Vargolfs are just going to be sitting there fighting away at Plague Bearers, which doesn't really, you know, not going to get too much value from that. But at the very least, one positive is that, I mean, there are more Vargeist models to Plague Drones, at least. And obviously Vampire Coasts have cheaper healing because because Fleshy Abundance is quite expensive as opposed to the indication. So at least there's that. But no, like, I mean, look at this with the demon prints in the air helping. It's pretty much over for the flying, and there goes that massive investment from the VC in terms of flying units. And yeah, just as you imagine. I noticed that they added this little flag above to show who has the point captured, but it's just so tiny. Like, what the hell is this? Put it up here. Like, why is it not like right next to the thing itself? Ugh. Anyways, it's something at least. But yeah, Sexy Boy just quits right away because he knows that was the biggest mistake of a matchup he's chosen. It was over pretty fast. Sounds Japanese to me. You think so? I mean, isn't Kukiniko European? I mean, yeah, I imagine he could also be a weeb. We have a lot of weebs in ODM, am I right? But yeah, I mean, this went pretty much how anybody would imagine it. Also, my throat is completely sore, so sorry about that. Check. Oh. Could be a Czech weeb. Could be a Czech weeb. You know? But I mean, what kind of weeb likes Nurgle? They're more of the Slanesh side. I would know I'm a weeb, so. No, I'm kidding. I love Nurgle. Nurgle is one of my favorite demonic factions. But, let's see here. Yeah, pretty much atrocious value across the board, as anybody could imagine. Literally one of the worst matchups you can take in land battles. 703, which is pretty sad. I mean, everybody here, I think, has played Warhammer 2, at least watching, so they know Vampire Counts used to be like the blob faction, and I mean, they can still out blob units like Vampire Counts against Lizardmen. Pretty good matchup for them generally. Can even against like Slun, Dreaded Saurian builds, like just Temple Guard builds, it's much better for Vampire Counts. They're going to win that any day of the week because they just tire out the Lizardmen and yeah, slowly just bring them down. But like against like Nurgle, it's just such a heavy one-sided thing. But also it has to do with Air Force. Like Nurgle has much better, stronger Air Force than anything Vampire Counts has, and much more durable infantry. It's just pretty rough uphill battle against Nurgle. So, but yeah, Vampire Counts used to be like the #1 blob faction, which honestly, it should be no surprise to say that blobbing isn't really healthy for PvP. It's a pretty atrocious and disgusting way to play. But at the same time, if that used to be your main thing in the second game, and you just like lose out to a different blob faction, then that's tough. But yes, I hate blobbing in any of the Total War games. Oops, forgot to do this. Okay, yeah, so Kukiniko has gotten one matchup against ODM. Already looking bad for ODM. Bunch of noobs, scrubs. Kind of embarrassing, if I have to say. Going on to the second game, we do have Butcher Bird versus Kukinko. Butcher Bird on the Wood Elves, one of their best factions, up against Kinko's Dark Elves. See how this goes. Generally, I think pretty even matchup, right? I mean, from what I've seen of them, I think it's every time I've seen it, it's been pretty relatively even. Like it can go one way or the other. But all right, let's check things out. Get some water. Drycha will be leading the Wood Elf side with Pit of Shades, Melkoff's Mystifying Miasma, and Rouse to Wrath for that Dryad summon. A staunch line of Dryads going to be rushing the main line of the Dark Elves with the Wraiths of the Frozen Hearth, pretty good RR. We also have some White Hunters of Kurnus, the Wild Rider anti-large variant with some Sisters of Thorn on both sides, and some Wild Riders in the center with shields and another without shields on the left-hand flank. But yeah, pretty quick mobile infantry build there from the Butcherbird, which he likes to play. He likes to play a lot of those skirmishier, faster factions and builds, like the Beastman. Supreme Sorceress will be rocking Burning Head. She's just going to be on a horse. And for the rest of the army, it's going to be some Bleak Swords leading the front line. We'll trade okay against the Dryads, but we'll lose. Dark Shards, a total of 3 of them. 4 of them. American can count. Some Dread Spears on both flanks as well, and some Cold One Knights. Can we do pretty decent here, especially with the Doomfire Warlock support. And it's just going to be 1, however. Doomfire Warlock will be 2 Cold One Knights and a Dark Rider. But already off the bat, the Dark Shards are taking some pretty detrimental damage from those Deepwood Scouts. Got to be careful. Those Silver Shields are helping quite a bit, but I mean, yeah, just taking so much damage already. The Dryad Summon does come in, be able to shut down those Dark Shards relatively quickly, and there's no cav support at all. I think would have been nice to maybe keep a Dark Rider in the back here, maybe to help in the case of these where the Dark Shards get pushed. But a Burning Head does go down, hits the Dryads a little bit, does pretty decent damage and curves quite a bit, but missed out on the other Dryads. The Deepwood Scouts continuing to shoot at the other Dark Shards, and yeah, they're just getting picked apart so badly that it's just not going great for them at all. On the Cav side, however, the Sisters of Thorn are losing a battle out with Cold One Knights, and Doomfire Warlocks plus the other Cold One Knights are trading pretty decently into the Wild Riders. However, I say that, but the one Cold One Knights is doing pretty bad. But Doomfire Warlocks are helping tremendously with their physical resistance, magical attacks, and pretty decent debuffs. On the other side of the flank, however, it is going much better for the Wood Elves. The Cold One Knights have taken a pretty bad fight there with the Wild Hunters of Kurnus. Same with the other Cold One Knights, with the Melkoffs going down on top of them as well, overcasted. So doing some massive damage support. But yeah, just looking pretty horrendous for the Dark Elf side on that side. But yeah, the Dryads aren't even, I mean, the Dark Shards aren't even able to shoot as they're continuously being pushed by the Dryads. Dryads pretty much collapse the Bleak Sword Infantry very quickly, as we've seen a lot with the faster mobile infantries like the Forsaken. But yeah, the Dryads need to be shut down, but I don't think they're going to be receiving, the Dark Shards are going to be receiving any support at all. The other Dark Shards do get up and start shooting, however, but I don't really think it's going to be enough. Those Wood Elves Cavs are going to be able to just run down the rest of those Dark Shards. The rest of this infantry and Cav support need to be pushing back over here to help support those Dark Shards, because Dark Shards are pretty much the only real answers to a lot of what the Wood Elves have left, especially the Sisters and the Deepwood Scouts. But we do have a Burning Head going down and actually doing a little bit more damage to their Bleak Swords than it did to the Dryads. The Dryads did get finished off, but that was equally as bad for the Dark Elves. But yeah, gotta be careful with these Cold One Knights, keeping them away from the skirmishing, but you need them nearby to protect your... I say that, but the Dark Shards are already gone. You have 1 left. You're sending them probably up a little too far to support or to shoot at the Sisters of Thorn, but they have no backup at all. They need these Cold One Knights nearby, and they are getting closer, but they need to be much closer in case those Sisters of Thorn or those that would have Cav takes the chance to run them down. We are getting some more Spearmen moving up, starting to recalibrate and get your group together. But overall looking much better for the Wood Elves, as you can see from the balance of power state. Probably about 60-40 in terms of the Wood Elves, but in general, I think even with some of these units coming back here for the Dark Elves starting to regroup back together, I think this is probably the Wood Elves game here, simply because they have the ranged support here. That's really, really good. We have a nice burning hit on one Deepwood Scout, but they're still going to be up here. I mean, they still have pretty decent leadership. So a Wild Hunter's Granite tries to take a fight there, but they back off as soon as they see the other Cold One Knights coming in. But the other Cold One Knights is pushing a little too far here. They might get a little surround here with the help of the Sisters of the Thorn. And I think this could be a pretty big mistake here from the Dark Elf side. But they might be able to catch out the Sisters of Thorn in return. We'll see. But we do have a Wild Rider joining in on the fight. And I think this is going to be a much worse trade for the Dark Elves. Yeah, especially with that milk cost overcasted. Yeah, or not even overcast, undercasted. Yeah, even with the Sister of Thorn catch, you lose out on a Cold One Night. And yeah, I think that's going to be pretty much spell doom for the Dark Elves. Very nicely played by Butcherbird. Nice solid catch there, tricking them and just baiting in that cav rush or charge from the Dark Elves. Well played by Butcherbird and by Cooking Kiko as well. But looking at the values here, we do have 885 here from Drycho. Pretty good with those milk costs. Everything else here, not too bad. 566, 698 from the Deep Wood Scouts. Pretty solid. 1234 here from the Wild Hunters. 1345, 761. Pretty nice. Yeah, some really solid cav engagements. The Sisters of the Thorn were fantastic here, really. Just did pretty good range support. And those bound spells as well are pretty nice. The 58, 437. The Dark Shard just had pretty much a horrendous time. It was very, very bad for them. Do you, considering you play Dark Elves a little bit more than me, Loopy, you especially play them a lot better. Would you go with Dark Shards here, or would you go with what are they called? I can't think what they're called. The armor piercing starts with an S. Ranged skirmish units. Don't they have much farther ranged? They just lack out on shields. 696, 376, 1031. I think the Doomfire Warlocks here are pretty good in my opinion. But yeah, the Cold One Knights trades were pretty bad. They just traded horrendously into those Wild Riders. Anybody you want to play? Okay. Yeah, my first thought was to go with shards because of the shields and because they can be pretty durable. Rather, they have pretty high damage potential. But obviously, it depends how you play, right? Like if you can't protect your shards from the Dryad Rush, or from if you don't like position them properly, they can be picked apart pretty easily by the Deepwood Scouts. But I can see I figured that you'd use shades for sure. But all right, that is one for ODM. We can go evenly tied with the ODM clan. Let's see here for the other games. We do have game 3. This will be against the head of the clan right now, Loopy, against Ginko on Tzeentch. Loopy playing the High Elves. Generally, though, I think the Tzeentch I have a feeling that Tzeentch just has a bad time against High Elves. Could I be wrong there? I mean, I don't see this matchup a lot, but the times that I have seen it, it's always one in High Elves' favor. It's always pretty evenly decided, or rather decisively won by the High Elves. But we do have an Archmage of high lore on a dragon here. Going to be rocking the Tempest, Soul Quench, Apotheosis, Book of Hoeth, and that is it. We have Moon Dragon. Moon Dragons are fantastic here. White Lion, front line, going to be chopping through any of the Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch very, very easily. Sisters of Thorn will be in the... what the hell? Sisters of Avalorn. I got the Wood Elf infection in my brain. Sisters of Avalorn, 2 of them, or 3 of them in total, with 2 Lothern Seaguard and a whole bunch of Spearmen in the back. A staunch line of Spearmen. For the Tzeentch inside, we do presume have a Chaos Sorcerer Lord of Metal. That would be pretty good here if the High Elf player decides to bring Dragon Princes. But obviously they didn't. But even then, they could throw it on, say, like some White Lions or some just general Spearmen, I guess. A lot of decent choices. But in general, Final Transmutation, Plague of Rust, and Searing Doom are pretty good against the High Elves faction because they have really good, decent armor across the board. One of the most highest average across the board aside from dwarves in terms of most factions. But we do have some Chaos Knights of Tzeentch on both flanks. Is the Chaos Sorcerer Lord on disc? No, she's going to be on horse. Of course not on disc. And we do have, speaking of discs, we do have 2 Exalted Heroes on disc. They could just be rocking Colossal Strike, and does one have the book? No, it's just the Colossal Strike as well. For the rest of the army, it's going to be Blue Horrors and some Forsaken. But all right, going for like a dragon, something to do, potentially screen out the dragon. But that Tempest is doing some pretty good damage against those Exalted Heroes. My God, that is very, very good. A very nice cast from that Tempest. My God, yeah, those Exalted Heroes, ouch, went right through those shields and just absolutely did some fantastic health damage. A little over, let's see, 1100 HP off of both of them. That's very, very good. A nice Moon Dragon Breath attack on the Forsaken as well. Very nicely lined up. Very good. But yeah, the Tzeentch heroes try to like screen out the dragon a bit, but I always found them on the disc to be a bit like awkward at times. Sometimes they just like do not attack, right? I don't know. There's everyone get some nice shots into them as well. But yeah, if they can get this, if the Archmage continue getting those Tempests out, those Tzeentch lords are just, those Tzeentch heroes are just going to be taking an absolute beating, and that value on them is just going to go completely to waste. Maybe keeping them back for now would be the right choice, and just send in their infantry for that complete rush and then send them in, keeping them back a little bit because they are not having a good time so far. There goes another Tempest potentially. Just right through those shields. Man, I want to see what that value is looking like so far on the Archmage. 973 already, so like with a minute and 50 in the game. 1044. At least this time, it only catched 1. So Kukinko has, learned a little bit from that first time. But probably try to get that infantry going right away. They did catch the capture point at the very least. Maybe trying to out-capture the High Elves player. Just out-durability them. But I'm not sure how that's going to work, really. You're going up against more of a box formation type of faction here, or build at the moment, so you're not really going to win that, I don't think. But generally, there's no good options for the Chaos Knights either, which is pretty rough. Like, there's just so much spears around, and then the Sisters of Avalorn are just like so tightly packed between all these layers of High Elves, that I think the Chaos Knights are going to have a pretty bad time overall. Yeah, we are at a stalemate a little bit at the moment. Just the High Elf players slowly picking away at them. The Sisters of Avalorn are chewing through a lot of those Forsaken at the moment. But the Tzeentch player is going for the capture point, really. A overcasted Final Transmutation, which I don't really agree with. It's kind of an odd choice to just start on the Archmage. And I think that's a misconception that a lot of players don't really understand, is that Final Transmutation is kind of just really overall better against blobs of multi-entity units if you can get a single entity lord in there, that'd be great. But generally, throwing it on a single lord is not effective like a spirit leech would be, or like a rancid visitations. This is, you would definitely want to hit multi-entity blobs rather than just single lords when possible, because you don't get that much value out of it. But blue horrors not trading very effectively, no surprise. They are shooting at the white lines and getting some okay damage, but they do have the missile resistance of 30%, and then the Sisters of Avalons are getting cross counter attacks against them, so just not making it worth it at all. And the Forsaken are getting absolutely torn apart by the white lions. No surprise at all. These blue horrors need to go around and start shooting through to the gaps, or just honestly, yeah, just go through the shoot through the gaps, because that's where your opportunity is. A lot of these spearmen are being stressed a little bit, but yeah, these Chaos Knights, as you can imagine, are just having a very, very tough time. They cannot be able to break through those center lines. You're going to want to send those Forsaken in and try to get just some anti-crossfire from the blue horrors, but I generally think just this build matchup is much in favor of the High Elves. Like, the High Elves just chose a much overall better build. If you wanted to, you can even send the Exalted Heroes in to disrupt the Sisters, because they're just doing that much work that even if your Exalted Heroes and your Sorcerer Lord can't get a good fight with the Dragon Lord, at the very least, you could disrupt these Sisters and stop them from shooting, causing the High Elf player to have to stress their Michael and realize that their Sisters are not shooting. So, yeah, the Chaos Knights are also not doing anything. Need them to be in the fight as soon as possible. They are your most high value units. We finally do get a decent overcast final transmutation here, but I think in general, from the early game so far, I mean, from the early game, it was kind of already decided, especially with some of these. But we do have a nice, really nice ult here from the, what are they called? A third tier army ability from the Blue Fire. It's from Tzeentch's side, but it's not really going to save the day, in my opinion. The Exalted Heroes in a very bad spot and pretty much going to die with that Tempest. The Chaos Knights are in a very rough spot as well. We do lose one entirely. They're completely shattered. One did get into a fight here with spears, but again, they are spears, and they are also in the forest, so they're taking a penalty melee stat-wise from the terrain of -8. So, yeah, unfortunately, the Chaos Knights didn't have much of a spot here. I think maybe some Chaos Warriors with shields and halberds would be pretty good here. Or something else. I don't know what. Soul Grinders, maybe? I don't know. Blue Fire? Maybe if you go for Tzeentch Blue Fire Kite. But I think the issue is that Sisters of Avalon have much better range, and will always get some sort of crossfire. Always get a volley or two into your I forgot what they're called. But you know what I'm talking about, the single entity blue fire shooters. But yeah, not looking too great there. It's going to be over for the Tzeentch side. It is going to be going to ODM Loopy. Very bad build matchups, in my opinion. But in general, I think Tzeentch is going to have a very tough time against High Elves overall. You think it's even? I think High Elves have some pretty decent choices. I mean, Tzeentch has some pretty decent choices, but I think it requires a lot more work on the Tzeentch side, in my opinion. What would you say you would go here for the build here for Tzeentch, Loopy? Is Kite the right choice? Or is trying to battle them out? Is trying to battle them out like this the right choice? Just need build alteration. More armor and spell kite? Yeah, that's what I figured. It was more spell kite and armor as well. Because it just feels like the blue fire, I mean, the blue horrors don't really do much. The Forsaken don't really do much either here. Or just rush. I do think if you are going to go for a rush, then yeah, you do need to go all out. Instead of like, because this is just too small of an army for a rush, in my opinion. I do think that spell kite is probably the better answer, but if you go up against a box formation like this one, maybe, I don't know. I think both have their viable options, but I think spell kite is probably the way to go. 2470 here on the Moon Dragon caster. Pretty good there. Very nice Tempest. Very, very solid. The White Lions did pretty decent there. Sisters did fantastic. Actually, not as good as I thought they would be. 697, 586, and 496. Pretty decent attempts at shutting them down. One Chaos Knight did get into the back line, which is very nice. And that's the best you can really ask for, but they got routed off pretty quickly. 1720 here on the Chaos Sorcerer. I think also, again, another part of it is that the casts from the Final Transmutation weren't that great and weren't timed well. But in general, I think the attack wasn't timed well in general. I'm not sure about the Zangors here. I think the Forsaken are going to struggle quite a bit. 275 and 499. Yeah, not that great of values across the board aside from the Chaos Sorcerer Lord. But pretty solid match. An attempt from Kukinko either way. That'd be 2-0 for ODM. What are you talking about? It doesn't psycho there. Dark Horse. You talking about a Total Tavern tournament? You should take that up with one of the admins, one of the return. If he was really harassing you. But yeah, 2-0 for, I mean 2-1 for ODM. Sorry for diminishing your score there, Kukinko. But let's go to the next game. All right, this will be game 4 up against Sexy Boy. Chaos Dwarves against WOC. I did watch this game live, so I do know what happens, but in general, I do think Chaos Dwarves have the upper hand here, especially with their trains. The trains are such a menace for a walk to have to try to deal with that, like, I would put it in like 65, 35 maybe for Chaos Dwarves. That doesn't mean the Warriors of Chaos can't deal with the train, but it's pretty hard to deal with it. But for Warriors of Chaos here, we do have Sartorial, the Everwatcher, which I think is a great choice. Metalcaster, very durable fighter, 56, 470. Very, very solid melee stats. I cannot believe that Sartorial is such a good fighter in Warhammer 3 with his update. It kind of amazes me. But yeah, he does have that gem of the Rock of Inevitability, which is going to be pretty good at trying to catch out that train and any Bull Centaur Lords as well, or even the Sorcerer Prophet. But yeah, really very nice melee defense debuff and speed debuffs as well. Plus Syrian Doom and Final Transmutation will be the spells. We do have the Marauders will be the front line, or the Warriors of Chaos, plus some Forsaken to rush, because Forsaken are just going to be fantastic here at crushing through any of the goblins, even the sneaky gets as well, and can even do some pretty good damage against Bull Centaurs because of their lower armor. We also have some Hellstriders on both flanks, and a whole bunch of Chaos Trolls, which I think are pretty decent here, armored. They have decent speed at 54, so they can catch onto a train and possibly surround one if possible, but Chaos trains have, I mean, the demon trains have pretty good mass, so, but if they do get us around on them, 100 AP, I mean, 100 weapon strength here, most of it being AP, so they can do some pretty good damage to it, but as well, if they take the one with the flame cannon, like the one they did, they do have regeneration, so it'll, they have to do that fire weakness, so. Chaos Dwarves will be leading their army with a Sorcerer Prophet of Death, which is a pretty good choice here against Walk, with the Fate of Buna, against any Hellstriders, and, or even Forsaken if they wanted to. But yeah, Spirit Leech and Fate of Buna, plus the Bull Damn it, I'm a Chaos Dwarf player and I can't think of the name for the bull. But either way, that is pretty much, plus the Chalice of Blood and Darkness, which is always fantastic. Insanely broken item, but they did I think they changed it from unlimited range to 100 meter range, if I'm correct, which is obviously much better, because before that it was insanely broken to the point where like it's absolutely crazy that how much healing that guy would get all the time, even as a Chaos Dwarf player. Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders plus the Ogon Cause Wolf Boys, one of the best RWARs on their roster in my opinion, just so very good at counter skirmishing and pretty decent at melee, I think 34. But otherwise they do have that weakness flame flammable effect, which is pretty nice, as there's a lot of fire damage across the board on the Chaos Dwarf side. Orc Laborers, Hobble Up and Sneaky Gets, which I think is the right choice to go here against Walk. The issue is that once again that the Forsaken, if they get a catch on them, they will absolutely obliterate Hobgoblin Stinky Hits. But yeah, you have to rely a lot on your Bull Centaur renderers, and that's kind of what the CD player is going for. That'd be Sexy Boy going for a bit of a kite here against the Walk side, which I think is a smart choice. Just slowly picking apart the army with the skirmishing and the Demon's Tongue. So Demon's Tongue is just gonna be fantastic here, as you can see across the board stats wise. Fantastic missile strength. And then the Hashut Stark Ravishers can back them up when possible. Yeah, let's see how this goes. Hellstriders do try to catch out the Hoglan called Wolf Boys, but Sexy Boy making sure on top of their micro today. So going to be keeping them out there, keep them out of range of those guys. Staying on top of there. The Demons are going to be able to get into the Forsaken with that nice flaming burst, and then they did pop more power, so they have more mass and acceleration. So they can start running through the Forsaken and do tremendous amount of damage, especially with the Sorcerer Prophet. Very, very good there. Going to be pretty good value for free there from Sexy Boy. Very nice. Goblin Wolf Boys continue to shoot in at the Forsaken and the Host Riders. Very nice. And then we have the missile block range coming in from the Bull Centaur Renderer RR as well. Final Transmutation going down there on the Demon's Tongue, which is okay. It's not going to do a whole lot. It's just a single entity. Again, the Demon's Tongue is relatively squishy, quote unquote, in terms of health pool as a single entity. Like, they rely a lot on their physical resistance. So Spirit Leech and stuff will slowly whittle it down, but a single final transmutation I don't think is worth it. But a nice Fate of Unit going down on those Host Riders. Very good choice by Sexy Boy. Some Ogun Wolf Boys continue to fire in on the Forsaken, and they're just going to be run down once again by the Demon's Tongue. This kite is going incredibly well here for the Chaos Dwarf player, no surprise, but the Words of Chaos players is going to have to continue pushing into it and try to surround them, block them off from being able to get out of there, how to escape. You need to go around and start collapsing in on that infantry and on those Wolf Boy skirmishing. Sartor does get a fight here with the Sorcerer Prophet, which is good with that Rock Inevitability as well. He can trade exceptionally well into the Sorcerer Prophet. The Sorcerer Prophet, I think, will lose that fight, especially with the debuff. Wolf Boy is just getting some pretty good value here, just shooting at the Chaos Trolls, which is very nice, but that armor is helping quite a bit, 110. So it is helping mitigate even with that fire damage, which is helping a lot. Another Final Transmutation going down, which at the very least this time, it does catch the Sorcerer Prophet and the Demon Tongue. So get a little bit more value there this time. But yeah, the push needs to happen sooner, just faster. You need to keep fitting through those gaps, trying to shut down those Hashut Stark Ravishers, shut down those skirmishing. Just continue pushing. The Chaos Train will continue to rack up value, but it is reading relatively low here. So if you can get us around with Sartorial, maybe some Chaos Trolls that can turn around on it, you can get it. You can catch it out and shut it down. But it is an absolute menace right now. Not that much value though. 535. Mostly just got on the Forsaken. Some Hell Striders have come back. You got to pull them back over here. But yeah, these Hoganga Wolf Boys continuing to be able to fire in. Some Hobgoblin Sneaky Gets still around. The Bull Centaur Renderers. If you can catch them out with a Forsaken unit, they could do an insane amount of damage to them with their low armor at 50 and relatively lowish melee defense at 36. Sorcerer Prophet does jump in there to help support against the armor trolls. We do have some Forsaken continuously pushing in. Those Sneaky Gets do end up getting terror routed. This is another Final Transmutation, I think, on the Demon's Tongue. At least, again, it gets some other targets with it, but again, it is not very good against just a single lord, a single entity, so not going to get a lot of value from there. Sartorial continue to chase it, which I think is a good option. If not for that, maybe Sartorial could yeah, I think it's just the best option for Sartorial at the moment. He just had the AP to deal with it, but the Demon's Tongue just is so fast and it's so hard to like chase down. But the Stark Ravishers are fighting off the Forsaken and the Marauders. They do have that anti-infantry in melee and very good melee defense as opposed to the Great Weapon variant. So having a really solid day at the moment. The Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders continue to fire away. Marauders continue to chase them, same with Forsaken, but I think these Chaos Trolls need to be sent in on the rest of the fight, helping to potentially shut down that train there instead, because right now they're just being shot at for no reason, giving free value to the CD player. Sartorial is attempting to continue catching it, but again, look at this. This is so frustrating, I feel, for the Warriors of Chaos player. They just cannot catch it. It just has so much freaking mass. I feel so bad for them. The Stark Ravagers do get us around here on the Chaos Trolls, able to get some pretty decent damage into them, at least get us around on them, and it'll... The other, however, Bull Center Renders, which should be on the Chaos Trolls theoretically, are unfortunately being slowly whittled away by the Marauders and the Forsaken, but they do have other support here. And now the Demon's Tongue is here, getting some nice crossfire into the Forsakens, getting rear charges and another flaming burst. That flame cannon is just so freaking good there on the flanks of the infantry of the Warriors of Chaos. As you can see, that burnt effect, and then that's all the damage as well, already putting those guys in the shaken, and then they get terrified as well. Another final transportation going down, still not finishing it off, down to 753, 653, 538. Yep, it's still alive here. That is so insane for the Chaos Dwarf player. The Sartorial is continuing to fight away at the Sorcerer Prophet, but at this point I think you might as well try to finish off the Demon's Tongue with one last charge, but otherwise I think it's pretty much over. The Chaos Trolls, there's only one really left. The Bull Center Renders are pretty beaten, but the other one are somewhat relatively healthy at 30% of their HP. The Demon Tongue is going to continue finishing off, routing off your infantry units. I understand trying to finish off the Sorcerer Prophet, but that's just a lot of HP to soak through at 51, 54. So, yeah, I think either the best... I think it's pretty much over, but if there was any choice, any chance, maybe to finish off the train. But I think the CD player does have this, in my opinion. Searing Doom going down. Pretty nice Searing Doom. But I don't think Sartorial is really strong enough to not only beat a Sorcerer Prophet, but also finish off the rest of the Bull Center Renderers and the Marauders. A nice final Overcast of Transmutation would be good, really, really good here. But I don't think it'll be enough. A nice Searing Doom coming down once again, doing some pretty good damage into the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders and the Bull Center Renderers. The Stark Ravishers still have some ammunition to shoot in at Sartorial. Spirit Leech going down there on Sartorial, doing some pretty decent damage there. We slowly whittling away the Harsh Stark Ravishers and the Bull Center Renderers, getting some pretty good surround there on Sartorial. But he's a tough fighter. Like I said, he is a pretty tough fighter, but against all this, he's not going to be able to handle it. Very good fighter, however. But yeah, unfortunately not being able to finish off that train was a pretty big detriment for the Warriors of Chaos. But as I said, that's really the problem in the matchup, is that the train is very hard to deal with. But pretty good attempt there. The Chaos Trolls just needed to get it on the right engagements, need to continue pushing. Just need to be a little bit more faster, more proactive with your rush. Yeah, you gotta take that up with an admin. Sorry, but that's... Event is having some... if you have some trouble with Anticity, definitely take that up with some admins. Can't really do anything about that. But alright, that was a pretty solid attempt by Kukinko up against Sexy Boy. Very good with his micro. Very nice skirmishing from Sexy Boy. Very well played. Definitely did the Chaos Dwarves proud. The Chaos Dawiza. But this was insane. 45-19 value on Sartorial. Sartorial is an absolute beast. That is incredible. Ever since his buff, that is insane. Like, he's such a good durable fighter, and then those Searing Dooms are very nice. Very, very solid. Just such a solid caster. That is just a very nice budget metal bird caster there. Let's see here. Pretty good all around. Nothing too exciting on these values here, but 1,014 on the other chaos, one of the chaos trolls at the very least. That was pretty decent. But yeah, I mean, I think it was relatively okay. You with this slightly armored infantry and this cheaper side of infantry, I think it's fine because you're not giving the train very much value. As you saw, like early on, it only had like 500, 600 value, which obviously you don't want to be losing that much infantry. But at the same time, like if they don't have that much infantry, and this is like more of your lower cost part of your army, then it's fine if the train gets that much value and kills them. But you want to use that lightly armored infantry as bait to try to cash that train out, which again is easier said than done. So, but yeah, let's look at the values here for the Chaos Dwarves at 2937 on the Sorcerer Prophet. Not too bad there. Very nice. 1333, about what I average, what I see honestly for the Sorcerer Prophets. 1333 on the Chaos Train. It doesn't really represent truly how much of a menace it was with the terror routes, because once again, as I always say, terror routes don't really account for gold value itself. So you have to more take account for that when you're actually playing and watching, because all those terror routes that debuff from the flame shots itself, just really, really solid, such good value. And then yeah, just overall just being an absolute menace. But yeah, disrupting formations, etc. No surprise, Hobgoblin Sneaky Hits didn't do a whole lot, but the Bull Centaur Renderers did. The RR variant at the very least, Hush's Dark Ravagers at 1992. Insanely good with those missiles, those armor-piercing missiles. Just very good into Sartorial, into the Armor Trolls. But with the single Bull Centaur Renderer, great weapon. I think the Armor Trolls definitely should have had a much better opportunity there. But yeah, that skirmishing just had nothing really to shut it down. They just needed to keep pressuring them because they were backed into a corner at one point. And if you could shut them down, they would have helped out a lot tremendously with those Chaos Trolls. But going with the armored variant was definitely a very solid choice there. Have to mitigate a lot of that damage. But yeah, 1589 here in the Oglin called Wolf's Boys. That flammable effect just helps out tremendously with the damage. It's just so good. But 468, 742, and 844. Very nice. Well played to both players. So that is 1-3 against ODM. Oops, not 32. We'll move on to the 5th and final game from Kukinko's Trials here. It'll be up against Segos. You know, this guy's Segos is a noob, so I think Kukinko should handle this perfectly fine, unlike Curio. We'll see here, though, with this matchup of Khorne versus Slanesh. All right. So for the Khorne side, what is this disgusting blob? Oh my god. Okay. This is yeah, this is something, all right. Not what I expected, to be honest. But all right. So we have here Scarbrand the Exiled, who has his Raging Body, no surprise there. It's gonna be a full line of Khorne Gores, a whole bunch of Khorne Gores, just a lot of them. Wow. Yeah. And then we have the Slaughter Guard, the chosen of Khorne ROR. Just a lot of AP halberds here. That's what this army is essentially. Very tough fighters. They slaughter guard with their unyielding assault, charge reflection, and then incredibly high melee stats. And then we have a bloodbrute behemoth as well to deal with any anti-large. Yeah, I mean, as disgusting as this is to look at, this is the answer. This is one of the answers to Slaanesh, who try to go picking and choosing their engagements, slowly picking away your formation. They kind of really can't pick and choose with this formation because anytime they take a charge here into any of this blob, they're going to lose any really battles here against any fiend, especially even with any fiends and even with any, they just don't have the durability to encircle this, surround this formation and really do anything about it. But we'll see how it goes. They also have Karanak as well to help mitigate any magical spells and reveal any hidden units from the Slaanesh side, plus net anything in place. That brass collar, very annoying item, going to be muting any magical abilities. But we also have Zazel for the Slaanesh side with Temptator and Demon Blade plus Pavane of Slaanesh, Devoted Marauders, and some Forsaken will be leading the front line from the Hell Scourges to the Spears. We also have some Fiends, 2-3 in total, and some skirmishing from the Slaanesh side with some Horsemen. Yeah, this is a pretty disgusting build here. I do not wish this on my worst enemy, if I'm being honest here. The trees are mitigating quite a bit, and yeah, the forest camping. What a surprise here from Segos. Yeah, Segos is a cheater. He's a disgusting, filthy noob cheater. Yeah, this is horrendous, but you know, this will be a very exciting game, guys. Very exciting game. Yeah, just continues shooting away at the very least at the Corn Gorse. Segos is just camping the forest, holding on to the point, getting some decent fire into the him here himself. Yeah, the capture point. Yeah, to be fair, it's that's the map builder's fault, really. And actually, I didn't even catch who was playing who. Honestly, like somebody was talking to me, so this could definitely be Kukinko playing Corn. But I'm assuming just based off of what the army I'm looking at right now that this is a Segos build. But yeah, I could definitely be wrong here. This could definitely be Kukinko. But I was looking away from the screen whenever we were loading in, so I feel like I know a Segos build when I see one. But yeah, no, this map is horrendous for capture point. I don't know who picked this map. I don't know who made this map. Or I don't know what the hell CE was thinking, but you know. But yeah, just slowly picking away at them. Slowly gonna be waking their way up to fight the Corn army, and no surprise here, the Corn army is gonna do much better in melee. Demonettes do get in there. I didn't even mention that there was Demonettes, but yeah, they do have three Demonettes, excuse me, which are going to do pretty good against Corn Gores and just Corn Gores and just a lot of them generally, even against the Slaughter Guard. The Slaughter Guard do have magical attacks, so. But Scarbranders jump in here. Does get surrounded by fiends a little bit. Got to be careful. Slaanesh Horsemen continue to shoot in there at the Slaughter Brute, riding that sulfuric musk from the fiends as well, which is helping quite a bit. But generally, the trees are going to help mitigate a lot of that missile fire from the Marauder Horsemen. The fiends do back away a little bit, trying to stay a little bit out of the continuously fighting spears. Capture point still remaining well, actually, it's in Slaanesh's hands now, I think. No, that's just is it? I think it is. Yeah, it is. So, pretty crazy. Yeah, so I might be wrong here about the builds here. I think this might be Kukinko's build. I don't know. Again, I missed who was playing who, but that was such a weird build there. I thought it was Seagulls for a moment. But, I mean, yeah. Scarbrand's getting shut down there. He might go down. He's pretty much going down into demonic instability. So, I mean, hey. Could be a chance here. The Slaughter Brew, however, the Blood Brew Behemoth is doing fantastic here. Just gonna be absolutely tearing apart those fiends. And the Slaughter Guard are doing absolutely incredible, just tearing apart the fiends as well, aiding so much. And then Azazel's taking the pretty good damage from the Play of the Blood God, and then from Karanak as well. Karanak is fighting away the fiends. Is a pretty okay melee fighter, 4640. He's not like specialized into fighting anything in particular, but it might, it's looking okay so far, not too shabby. Balance of power is looking a little bit more in Nash's favor, but the Horseman Cav is pretty much out of ammunition all across the board. Azazel is looking for any opportunity he can jump in there, but the Bloodbird Behemoth is doing a hell of a lot of work. There goes Scarbrand, however. He is starting to crumble. Poor guy, poor little guy. He's just completely surrounded, not having a great time. Didn't have a lot of choices to pick at the moment. Azazel might be just to turn around and finish him off. That'd be pretty funny. But there goes a lot of Khorne's army. Just gone. The Slaughter Guard are, holding on. Pavane is starting on top of them, doing a little bit of damage, rampaging them. But I mean, I think they are pretty much outclassed now. I think Khorne is going to be picked apart. Wow. Not exactly what I expected, but honestly, the Horsemen did a lot of value. And to be fair, on my misjudgmental is that Khorngors are much better for rushing a point and rushing an army rather than they are holding a point, as opposed to like Khorne Chaos Warriors with halberds. They're more of a push and get into those gaps with those the high melee attack, and less of holding a point. So yeah, that was definitely a very interesting matchup. That was something for sure. That was a build. That was a fight. That was Total War Warhammer 3. But yeah, I mean, Bloodbird Behemoth, they did pretty okay, I imagine. But the Fiends did really, really good there. Yeah, let's take a look at those points. I don't know what I expected from that. Okay, I was wrong. Yeah, no surprise. When I started to see what was actually happening, I was like, this can't be Segos, and as the Khorne player, for very specific reasons. Maybe it's a little too meme for Segos to build something like this. Segos is generally always cheating. Yeah, that is a very known fact from Segos. Not only is he a noob, but he's also a cheater. Scarbrand at 496 value here. That was certainly a build from Kukinko. Karanak 794. Khorngors did pretty atrocious, as you can imagine. Slaughter Guard did fantastic at 1900 value, and 1636 there from the Blood Brute Behemoth. So very good all around from these two at the least. Scarbrand was pretty much humiliated. 1308 on Azazel. I don't know what the hell he was fighting. Probably Karanak. He probably killed Karanak or routed him off. The Demonettes did pretty good there. If I saw the Demonettes, I don't know how I missed those guys, but yeah, they did pretty good there. No surprise. Tearing apart the Khorngors, 494, 1166, and 963. Yeah, I mean, those Host Riders, the Horsemen did fantastic. They just had free reign to just continue shooting away at Scarbrand and the rest of the units of Khorne. So yeah, I mean, that was definitely a fight from two players that are very well skilled, for sure. I honestly think that just came down to Sego's cheating. So I think if Kinko was against any other player, he would have won. But when you go up against a cheater, I mean, you don't really have a chance. So, but yeah, I mean, that'll be 4-1 against Kukinko. That'll at least be enough to spare him from the wrath of Segos, giving him one of the most atrocious looking profile pictures possible. So that's good news for Kukinko at the very least. Other than that, so both players, Kukinko and Curio, are able to make it without having to ruin Seago's history. At the least, one positive is of Seago's having to find a profile picture is that it ruins his web history. So, his search history. So that is at least one positive, but he didn't have to do this time. We did not get any players with a cursed profile picture. So good for them. And they both have been recruited into ODM. So congrats to both players. But that is pretty much the end of the stream mostly. Hold on, let me check to see if I have one replay for that I can cast here. Alfredino sent me one, but I don't know if it's the appropriate patch that I have. When was the game? Let's see. 1 second here. Little War, Warhammer 3. Just checking the updates real quick. Make sure I'm on the right patch to be able to cast Alfredino's replay. Might have to wait for an actual video on that one, but we'll see. He sent it to me in September. I don't think I'm on the right patch. Yeah, that was 6.3. I'm not on 6.3. I'm on 6.3.1. So, unfortunately, no Alfredino game for us. But maybe this weekend, Curio will get the rest of his trial done because that was BS. He only got 3 games out of 5. So maybe I'll have more games to cast this weekend. But generally, that is pretty much it for this stream. That was just for the trial. Thanks for hanging out, guys. See you, Ryder. See you, Loopy. The rest of you. Thanks for hanging out. Catch you later. Bye-bye.